My syllabus is, I think, up to 9 or 10 pages at this point. And this is the interesting thing. I've hit, I believe, some sort of milestone because during the summer I received the least amount of emails asking me to clarify things ever. And I've been teaching online since 2005, and this was the semester where I went, wait, no emails? What's going on? Are people on there? So I am a firm believer in having tons of policies and written out very clearly. So the way that I do it is I reference a lot of that stuff on the syllabus, but then I've created different policy or guidelines that I use for speech guidelines, discussion forum guidelines, for my people that work in teams, team guidelines. So if they have a question, it's there. And most of the time, if they read it, they don't need me anymore. And there's no guesswork. And I think they really like that idea that you have, like, kids like some sort of structure. You know, children like structure. Well, adults do too. They like to know what the parameters are. So I'm a fan of having them.
I think, too, you referenced 2005, we've all taught online for a long time, is that when I encounter a question, I will go back into my syllabus or wherever that's addressed, and I'll make it clearer there. So the more you teach, the more of those, if you get those things, it's going to answer a lot of those questions, so you're not going to get them as much after a time.
And I think the one thing we've learned from teaching online so much is we have to be very, very specific in directions and what we expect from students. Unlike in a face-to-face class, they can ask us a question if they don't understand something, and that's when we do the revisions. I know every single semester when I do a revision, I'll go in and look at any assignment that students have had problems on and try to figure out why did they have problems. What to me it might seem completely clear, but then I'll take a look at their emails and I'll adjust the assignment to make sure that in the future there won't be that problem.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a tweaking of words, things like that, or arrangement of the process of the assignment itself.
Yeah.
But you can have all the guidelines and directions you want. If they don't read them, it's pointless. So one of the things that I do is have a class acknowledgement form that says, I have read all of this, I understand all of this, I understand that if I don't abide by it, it might have an effect on my grade. And then they sign that and they send it to me. And it says very clearly also that if you don't ask for clarification, then you're saying by default that you understand the assignment. So if you don't email me, then you can't say, well, that was unclear to me because you didn't tell me what you needed to do.
Sort of a contract.
Yeah.
Yes, because if you run into any of those students who might want to find the loophole is closed when you ask them to read everything and everything is already written down.
Well, I don't, I have online exams and quizzes, and I do not let students make them up, and the reason being is I open them up day one of the semester, and then throughout the semester there are specific days in which each of them would be due. And I put in an example, like on quiz 1 is due next Friday, and I would say, okay, you've had 12 days to take this in. That means you've had X number of hours, X number of minutes. The quiz is only going to be open for 25 minutes, and you're going to explain to me that you didn't have, that amount of time to be able to take it in. So I've done that, and with that one example, I have not had many students ever try to ask me to make it up. I mean, that's kind of clarified that they realize that they can take them early, and they have a huge amount of time to take it within.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I set a day that it's due, and a time that it is due, and then it turns off. They know that I don't accept late work. Now, of course, if there's some kind of circumstances that's a little different, then maybe I'll cave on that. But I don't much. I mean, I like to keep it at that, because otherwise, you'll have people who, if you don't put these timelines on there, are going to just kind of pushing that, and then you'll get all your work at the end of the semester. So that's why it's good to have due dates throughout the semester and keep to those due dates so that you don't get piled on.
And if you don't push the students, I think what happens is, when I first started teaching many, many years ago, we were actually somewhat encouraged to have it so that the students could hand everything in at the end of the semester. We didn't have to have specific due dates, and I found that my completion rates were very poor in those classes because students just forgot about the online course. And then they would log in with 2 weeks to go and try to make up the whole course. And so with those specific due dates and with those policies, you do keep on, prompting the students to try to complete everything, when it's due.
They can't rush it in the whole semester in a week or two.
But they try.
And they can't do it. And
I do it differently from both of you. When I started teaching, I was a no late work kind of girl. I was just like, no way, no how, this is the deadline, done. And what I found was that I ran into a lot of people who just it was resistance because they had a problem here, they had a problem there. So then I thought about how the real world works. And we like to think that deadlines are deadlines, but if something is a day late or whatnot, your dean is not necessarily going to fire you because of that. And people can work with, oh, I'm sorry, I have a meeting to go to. So I thought about it and how I really wanted to mimic that. And the way that I look at it, and this is what I say to them, is you can turn it in on the deadline or before and get full credit, or you can turn it in any day after that until your credit runs out, 5 points deduction per day. When you turn around 3 days, that's 15 points. Most people don't get 100. And I explained this to them. You're not operating off of 100. If your typical grade is an 85, 15 is a lot, right? So what I find is that since I did that, I don't ever have to deal with reasons why people didn't turn it in. I don't care. Whatever the reason is, if it's late, it gets a deduction, even if it's a minute past the deadline. So I have completely nixed any emails that have to do with this is why my work is late. And people actually started turning things in on time because they realized very quickly that those points, boy, they just add up. So they're there for a reason. If somebody runs into an emergency or something, I don't need to be notified. They can just turn it in late. So I really like that policy. And for me, it was a lot of growth because I was traditional education, no, this is the deadline kind of person, but I like this a lot.
Well, the docking also is a traditional pedagogy too.
Yeah.
Because I've used it in the past as well. So.
And I call it in case of emergency. So I tell them don't rely on this. But I would rather somebody actually turn something in and that they do the work as opposed to say, well, screw it, it's already due. I'm not going to do it now because it's not worth it. So I kind of want to still have them have the opportunity to turn it in.